If you want to understand why those swollen, twisted veins in your legs have been worsening year after year, stop looking for the answer in a tube of topical cream and stop expecting a rushed appointment to give you the full picture. The answer lives deeper in the body, and it has been known for a very long time. Welcome. I am glad you are here, my friend. Those veins are telling you something about the way your blood is moving, or rather the way it has slowed and begun to pool. This matters for your independence. It matters for the walks you want to take, the garden you want to tend in the early morning, the stairs you want to trust without hesitation. Your doctor may have offered compression stockings or a referral to a specialist. What they likely did not have time to explain is the layer beneath the visible vein, the reason blood is gathering there at all. That layer is where we are going today. What lives there has been understood for a very long time, quietly, in places far from any clinic. My name is Shen. For over 60 years I have followed the healing path given to me by my teacher in a monastery, high in the mountains north of the Kathmandu Valley. This knowledge was preserved across many generations of monks who devoted their lives to understanding the body through observation, through practice, and through the plants that grew along the stone mountain paths. My teacher held a teaching I have returned to throughout all these years. He said that the health of every river in the body begins in the belly. He meant that the gut governs the level of inflammation moving through the blood, the strength of the immune response, and the resilience of the vessel walls themselves. When that inner terrain is calm, the rivers of the body carry their purpose cleanly. At our monastery, the elders who carried strong, clear legs well into their late 80s kept a set of simple daily disciplines across their whole lifetimes. A morning walk on uneven ground, a plant tea in the evening, a practice of raising the legs above the heart. Among those who held these disciplines for generations, the condition of swollen, twisted veins was uncommon. Among those who sat without these habits through long years of study, a quiet name developed over time for what gathered in the legs. The tradition understood this long before the outside world began asking the question. Before I share what the monastery observed about how to address this condition, I want to say that one part of what I'm about to teach will genuinely surprise you. 9 out of 10 people living with this heaviness in their legs are approaching one layer of the recovery in a way that quietly works against them. The order of what I share matters. Each layer builds upon the one before. Stay with me through to the end. Before we continue, I would like to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me your age. And tell me this, which symptom troubles you most, the visible veins, the aching heaviness, or the swelling by evening? I read every single comment on this channel, and what you share here shapes the teachings I bring forward next. In this teaching, I am going to walk you through the true source of what is happening beneath those veins, something many people living with this condition have never been shown. I will reveal the 3 forces that keep this pattern in the body, working quietly over years. I will share the morning practice the monastery preserved for those whose days kept them still for long hours. And I will share the master ritual, the one that opens fully only once everything else is already in motion. A gentle request before we begin. If what I share here reaches you, please consider subscribing to this channel. Many friends tell me they returned to several teachings before realizing they had not yet subscribed. It takes only a moment, and it allows more people who are searching to find their way here. Let us begin with what you are experiencing. By afternoon, the legs feel heavy and full, as though the blood has settled there and forgotten how to return. You may see the veins themselves, blue and rope-like, raised just beneath the skin of the calf or ankle. In the morning, the feet may feel cold and slightly distant. Some people describe an aching that does not quite rise to sharp pain, just a persistent tiredness that follows them through the day. These are real signals. The body is communicating clearly, and it deserves to be understood. The condition the medical world calls chronic venous insufficiency is, at its center, a failure of the small one-way valves inside the veins. Think of those valves as a series of trapdoors built along the length of a channel. Each trapdoor opens when blood pushes upward toward the heart, then closes firmly to prevent the blood from falling back down. When those trapdoors weaken and no longer seal with full strength, blood drifts backward. It pools in the lower leg. The vein walls stretch under that pressure. The tissue around the vein begins to sit in blood that is stagnant and oxygen depleted. The deeper question is why the valve walls weaken and what allows blood to settle for years before a vein becomes visible. After 65, the connective tissue inside the vein walls loses measurable elasticity. Valves that depend on firm, supple tissue to close completely begin to allow backward flow. And when blood sits still in the lower leg, the body sends an inflammatory response that softens the walls further still. This cycle is slow, quiet, and it builds across many years. There are three forces that keep this cycle in motion. The first is the quieting of the secondary pump. The calf muscles, with each step, squeeze the veins and push blood upward toward the heart. When we sit for long hours or stand without moving, that pump goes silent. Blood gathers at the bottom of the leg, and the valves must hold it there alone. Over the years, they lose that capacity. The second force is chronic, low-grade inflammation inside the vein walls themselves. It moves slowly, softening the tissue the valves depend on to hold their position. The source of this quiet fire, my friend, is very often the gut. The gut at 60 carries fewer beneficial bacteria than it held at 35. And what the monastery's practice of fermented foods and bitter roots has understood for generations, the outside world is now beginning to confirm. When bacteria are present in the gut but have no prebiotic fiber to sustain them, they cannot thrive. And without the compounds those bacteria produce, what we now call postbiotics, the actual messengers that calm inflammation in the vessel walls, the bacteria alone cannot complete their work. A seed placed in dry, depleted soil does not grow, no matter the quality of the seed. The seed, the soil, and the living compounds the soil releases must all be present together. The third force is a gradual decline in the nutrients that rebuild collagen inside the vein walls, particularly rutin, found in buckwheat and the white pith of citrus, and vitamin C. After 60, the absorption of both slows considerably. A friend named Dorothy, 68 years old, a retired school teacher from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, came to me after years of aching heaviness in both legs. Visible veins traced along the inside of both calves. She had worn compression stockings with only partial relief. What had been overlooked was the rhythm of her days. Decades of standing at a chalkboard had given way to long hours of seated reading in retirement, and her calf muscles were barely activating at all. After 8 weeks of adding a daily calf activation walk and rutin-rich buckwheat porridge each morning, her leg heaviness had reduced by approximately 55%. She told me, "Shen, last Sunday I walked through my daughter's garden for an hour without sitting down once. I had not done that in 3 years." If you are managing a blood-thinning medication or have been diagnosed with a deep vein condition, please speak with your physician before beginning any new movement practice. Every body carries its own history. Now to the recovery. It moves in 3 layers. The first layer is the morning calf activation. Before your feet touch the floor, while still lying in bed, flex your feet upward toward your shins, hold for 3 seconds, and release. 30 repetitions. This wakes the calf pump before the body is even upright, moving blood that pooled overnight before gravity has a chance to add to it. The second layer is a rutin-rich morning meal. Buckwheat porridge, cooked from whole groats and eaten simply, or a wide slice of citrus with the white pith still attached, taken before any other food, gives the vein walls the building compounds they need to begin reinforcing themselves through the day. Now I want to pause here for a moment. Friends who follow this channel often ask what I use personally to support the gut's role in calming that quiet inflammatory force I described. What I have arrived at, and what I recommend for many dear ones, is Buchbod, a kombucha gummy, not a pill, which makes daily use simple for people who find capsules difficult. It brings together prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics in one formula, including 2 clinically studied strains called Lactospore and Postbiotics LM1004, alongside slippery elm and dandelion root, plants the mountain healers have carried in their practice for generations. Over 30,000 people use it as part of their daily rhythm. The link is in the description below. And of course, speak to your doctor before starting any supplement, particularly if you are managing other conditions. And now we arrive at the teaching my teacher saved for last. He called it the river ritual. Each evening, before the day ends, lie on your back and raise both legs against a wall. Hips close to the wall, legs vertical, feet at ease. Hold this for 10 to 15 minutes. In this position, gravity reverses. The blood that has pooled through the day begins to travel back upward toward the heart and the lymphatic system. Many people who try this for the first time notice a visible difference in the swelling of the ankles by the following morning. The addition the monastery's practice preserved is the contrast step. After the elevation, fill 2 shallow basins, one with water warm enough to be comfortable, one with cool water. Alternate your feet, 3 minutes in the warm, 1 minute in the cool, 3 rounds through. The warmth draws blood toward the surface and opens the small vessels. The cool sends it back toward the core. Repeated over weeks, this alternation trains the vessel walls to respond with greater elasticity, a kind of practiced breathing. The old monks who kept this evening ritual called it teaching the veins to breathe again. Those who held this practice across the generations, as I have read in the ancient texts and heard from the elders I sat with in my younger years, maintained far greater leg vitality into their 80s than those who let the ritual lapse. A friend named Raymond, 74 years old, a retired postal worker from Chattanooga, Tennessee, had lived for years with a visibly swollen left ankle and persistent evening heaviness in both legs. What had been overlooked was that his daily walks were on flat pavement only, with no elevation or contrast practice afterward. 6 weeks into the evening river ritual, his ankle swelling had reduced by approximately 60%. His evening leg fatigue, on his own reported measure, dropped by close to 40%. He looked at me one afternoon and said, "Dao Shen, I wake up in the mornings now, and my legs feel ready." I had forgotten what that was like. The sequence matters. Morning calf activation first. Root-rich morning meal second. Evening river ritual last. Each layer prepares the ground for the next one to work. After 60 years of watching what holds across time, 3 things stand out. Tip 1, walk before you elevate. A 10-minute walk taken just before the evening wall position primes the calf pump first. The blood drains more fully during elevation when the muscles have recently been active. Tip 2, rutin and vitamin C work together. When you eat your buckwheat or citrus, pair it with a small amount of fresh bell pepper or kiwi. The 2 compounds together support greater collagen renewal in the vein walls than either one provides alone. Tip 3, steady repetition over effort. 10 minutes of elevation each evening for a month will serve the vessel walls far more than longer sessions done only occasionally. The body learns through gentle consistency, not through occasional heroics. 3 mistakes I see often with this condition. Mistake 1, applying a compression stocking before the morning calf activation. The blood that pooled overnight needs to begin moving first. Applying the stocking beforehand seals in what has already settled. Mistake 2, using a sweetened prepackaged buckwheat product. Added sugar works against the rutin benefit. Whole buckwheat groats cooked simply are what the body can receive and use. Mistake 3, water that is too hot in the contrast basin. Excessively hot water causes the vessels to dilate and remain dilated, the opposite of the training effect you are seeking. Warm and comfortable is the correct measure. There is something I want to say before we close, dear one. The legs that carry you to your grandchildren, the ones that take you to the garden before anyone else is awake, the ones you want to trust on the stairs, in the market, on a slow walk beside someone you love. These legs are worth this steady, patient care. It is never too late. At 70, at 75, at 80, the body still holds the capacity to respond to what it is given. The vessel walls can be supported. The blood can be encouraged to move again. You are the one who tends this river, and you always have been. Let me gather this together. The hidden source of the condition is valve weakness inside the vein walls, fed by pooling blood and quiet inflammation built over many years. The 3 forces deepening it are the stillness of the calf pump, the inflammatory environment inside the vein walls rooted in the gut, and the gradual loss of nutrients that keep the vein walls firm. The recovery moves in 3 layers. morning calf activation, the root-enriched morning meal, and the evening river ritual of elevation and contrast. If this teaching reached you today, share it with your spouse or with an oldest friend who has been carrying this same heaviness without knowing where to look. Subscribe here so the next teaching finds you. And leave a comment telling me which part of this you are beginning first. I read every single comment on this channel, and your answer shapes what comes next. The Butchbod link from earlier in this video is waiting in the description below, whenever you are ready to take a look. Until the next teaching, walk gently, my friend. The river is still moving,